Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm exhausted. It takes a lot of energy to do the kind of things we do. Okay? Things are definitely moving at a very rapid pace. It's really amazing, for example, when I look at the video that I posted this morning about data-driven operations, right? We're a computer terminal, we process data. And I mentioned in a couple of my videos how when I was a child coming in here, how we time vector or value tag a data. Data we hang on to, data we don't hang on to, data that has, if you will, a certain amount of value for a certain period of time, and then we delete it, uninstall it, get rid of it, burn it up, whatever. In other words, it doesn't have any value anymore. Okay, so this is all job related. Okay? So you know when you're going to jump into a spiritual war and jump into a spiritual battlefield, particularly, this isn't like back in the caveman days, if you want to think of the caveman days, but if you want to think of the beginning of technology, we predate all the technology, okay? We're in etheric form. What living spirit is, it lives in the light. So at the end of the day, the question is always going to be, well, how hot is your light? Okay? Is it hot enough to burn up a demon? Okay? Is it hot enough to burn up a vampire? Right? How hot is your flame? How hot is your furnace for a girl if you're a guy? How hot is your furnace if you're a girl for a guy? Okay? How hot is your furnace to bang out a universe? So these are the questions I obviously ask, not just everybody else, but when I look at me. Okay? So, a couple of things important. Three things, what I call anchor points. I've mentioned this before. It's much like, for example, in the Forest Service. When a hotshot crew or any crew is going to go out into the forest and conduct work or cut fire line, for example, and this is particularly true for smoke jumpers. Okay, in the days when the only thing you had was a map and a compass, a topo map and a compass, that's it. So you jump in a terrain you've never seen before, you've never been in before, and there's no roads. How do you get out? How do you know how to get out? Well, if you're native to this planet, that's actually pretty easy. Okay, you just communicate with everything that's happening in nature and the girl on the planet, and you find your way out. You might even hang out for a week because you love the area so much. You can always do that. That's what you do when you're native to the planet. Native spirit. You communicate in spirit with all the other spirits, right? Spirit in the water, spirit in the fire, spirit in the earth, spirit in the wind. Okay? So, that's how it works when you're here. And so when I think of, for instance, what I call anchor points, which are anchor points on a timeline. So when you come in here and you're waging war on the battlefield, you sort of what I call anchor point the timeline. Okay? By certain events that happen that is really experiencing that experience. So there's a lot of ways or a lot of words that you can use to describe what that means to you using the English language. Okay, I call it an anchor point. Remember, like the anchor point, like when you want to rappel down the side of El Capitan, which is a very steep-ass cliff, and you already have a picture in your mind where you're already on the bottom. That's future proves past. But in order to make sure that you make it to the future, okay, even though you're in now time, and it's easy to be in now time when you're with her, okay, that's why I say to myself, I'm going to get out of it now, all the memory-driven programs that I'm aware that others run, right, and go back to be with her, because when I'm with her, I'm in a timeless state. Then all of a sudden, I get a memory wipe. Okay? And you're back to no memory. I call it running multiple live streams. No, on a more serious note, it's much like what we used to do when we cut line in order to find our way back, which is the anchor point, so we don't get lost out there, okay? Although I'm not lost anywhere on this planet, okay? Actually, I'm not lost anywhere in the entire cosmos. Because we run a heart wheel, okay? A light wheel, which is the vortex of the heart. That's the most powerful intelligence there is in the cosmos. Okay? Those are your big neurotransmitters. That's how you communicate. And the rest of the cosmos will communicate with you. Okay, if it hasn't been blocked off. So my heart has always been working ever since I got in here. Okay, so I know I've always been source connected. Which is the purest, hottest light there is. Which means that's infinite light and infinite creative imagination. And you can also look at it through the way that we use computer terminals or computer language, numerical language, programming, you know, information sciences, information transfer, data transfer, energy transfer, experience transfer. Right? Okay, so when we go through a forest and when I mark our way, we use what was called flagging tape. Usually they were either like this color right here, see? That's sort of fluorescent green. I love this color. We had tape like that. And we used to tear some of the tape off a roll and then tie it around a branch. And usually about depending on the corner or the turns that we're making, we'd put a little piece of tape up there so we could find our way back. Okay? That's how I do a timeline. I flag the timeline. I flag the timeline on anchor points. When you're collapsing timeline and you want to maintain your timeline zero, there are certain anchor points. So if you think of writing your own timeline because you represent timeline 0 point, then you want to remember when you're in a battlefield like this with the level of technology that's being waged against us using their looking glass technology, okay, you realize that you're in timeline wars, which are very much frequency wars, which are electric wars, which are very much genetic wars. Okay? Lower consciousness, higher consciousness, infinite consciousness, universal peace, universal love, universal light. You can use a lot of different words if you want to describe how it is we experience, you experience, the universe that you believe you live in. Okay? It might be different than the one that I believe I live in. The one I believe I live in is eternal light, which is eternal unconditional love. It has to be unconditional. Okay? Meaning that you're constantly broadcasting that energy no matter where you go, which means it's not even a transaction. It's like what a sun does. It's constantly giving us energy. Okay? Every morning I try and remember, thank you very much, girl, for all that energy. Bless your heart. Bless my heart. Bless all the hearts in the cosmos. Okay? For the fact that we are energy producers. We keep the cosmos running on as much light as we possibly can, right? So that nobody experiences anything less than what love is. Because love does no harm. Now you are free, and I am free, to express myself however I want. How many people do you know that either put up makeup, put on a mask, or are in fear of expressing themselves because somebody's going to think that who you are, that you're freely expressing yourself, is going to get chastised, you're going to get hit, you're going to get bullied, or somebody's going to tell you. They have all these ways in which they're trying to find how you're supposed to live your life. And those are the carnival barkers. Cosmopolitan Magazine, 17 Magazine, Red Circle. They're all designed to say, hey, you got to have this, you got to have this, you got to have this, you got to have this. All these things are external to us. These things do not represent what our soul is, the inner us, the inner you. Okay? So that's sort of why when I was a child, I was like a big fuck you. Okay? That might be who you are, presenting all this stuff to me, but that's not what I am. So this is when we get back down to identity function. Okay? So when you think about what data is, a data-driven experience, okay? Bits and bytes, terabytes. How much data do you run off of? Infinite data, which is infinite light, which is infinite creative imagination. So one of the things that happened this morning when I did the video on data, burning up the data, the COVID, the virus, okay? Because no virus has ever been isolated and purified, okay? That's a fact, okay? You're in a data-driven unit, a simulator, if you will, okay? So what is the data that you run in order to experience what it is that you are? Now we get into subconscious memory or memory, okay? So if I put all the information in there, which is all that data, and that's the data that you run on, then those are going to be represented by the experiences that you have in the future. Because the difference between running on memory and running no memory is vast. Okay? So that's the purpose of a classroom. And this is a classroom. So when you realize the level of technology that they're waging against you, how long do you think computers have been around for? Okay, just think about that for a second. How big can the computers get? How much data can they actually process? Well, imagine you're the data processor of Source. How much data is being transferred between every unit of consciousness throughout the entire cosmos? Every solar system, every galaxy, every supercluster, every universe. Think about that. That's a lot of data. So when I come into a simulator or a biosphere, for example, then what it is that we experience here is based on whatever being that is in this planet, in this case, Gaia, who is doing the physics here. So I know what it's like to be with her because I can experience the higher frequency energies of what it's like to be with her in a timeless state and see how beautiful everywhere that I go, everything is, because that's a perception of how you perceive the world in which you live, which is high frequency. So this is what makes it easy to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. Bad data, good data. Okay, so in that particular regard, two things happened recently that were very good news. So I think of this as an update. Because when you live through your heart, which is the most powerful neurotransmitters you have between the universe that's communicating to us and us communicating our energy of what we're experiencing to the rest of the cosmos. So that's what I do. Okay? So I know I get a lot of communications all the time, particularly in the morning. So I remember, for example, about 16 months ago, I think it was, when I was out on the beach on the Big Island, Hawaii, I got a prompt through my heart. We got the grid back. We're getting the grid back. Okay? So I thought, cool. That's yeah, put my arms out and scale out as much love through my heart as I possibly can. And then yesterday, day before yesterday, in the morning, because you experience it. You're experiencing the experience through your heart, which is where I experience it. So I experienced all of the light returning big time to the Milky Way galaxy because my heart's connected to it. That's the one we live in. So I can experience the light through my heart of the light going up in the Milky Way galaxy. That's big news. So I'm experiencing it going up here in this planet. That's good news. So what I was thinking this morning about the data-driven virus stuff, all of a sudden I checked my email about an hour ago. The next thing I know is I'm actually reading something that I echoed myself on that YouTube that I did about data-driven. So here a guy named John Rappaport, who was a long-time journalist. He's been around forever. I think he's maybe a few years older than I am. But he was a journalist writer, and he's written stuff for Rolling Stone magazine, Playboy magazine. He ran for Congress in California. He's an Imagineer, a lot like I am. He talks a lot about creative imagination. He has his own. He's written several books on the Matrix trilogy, or Breaking the Matrix, I think is the name of him. I forget. But his name is John Rappaport, R-A-P-P-O-P-O-R-T. Anyway, I read his email, and he talked about how it was bad data. It was data-driven. Of course it's data-driven. You're like a computer terminal. So what they're doing is sending data out. So everybody's experiencing what the data represents. What does the data represent? They're saying it represents a virus. So I remember when that first came out, it's easy for us because I sort of laugh at it. I don't live in any fear because love is the absence of fear. And I know better. So when you already sort of know the battle that you're waging when you come in here, you know why that data is being presented in the manner in which it is. They realize they lost, but they're not going to go down without a fight. Because these are beings that the last thing in the world that they want to do is lose control. Is lose control of what they can't love, which is themselves. So if they can't love who they are, they certainly can't love anybody else. So they don't. But since we represent energy, what do you think they do? When they know that we run higher frequency energy than they do, we become a source of energy for them. So that's why they have to control us, because they can't generate any of their own. That's the nature of the war. So I thought I'd mention that because that's good news, because that means the speed at which I was aware of what I was aware of, that I was sharing with everybody else on that YouTube video, was like an echo chamber reading his email. That's a morphogenetic field structure. That's the speed at which data and which we become aware, which means greater power. Okay? Which means the light is here in big force. So it's just like, bye. It's just like I already knew as a child. The light won this. The light has to win it. Love is more powerful. So anyway, I thought I'd leave you with that. That's very good news. So I figured when I was looking at Trump, I guess, put up a news conference, I thought, you know, since I'm aware of this, Rappaport is aware of this, and this is going through the morphogenetic field structure, he's got to be aware of that. Okay? He's got to be aware of what a lot of people are aware of. See? So it's just like, hey, are we running a higher state of awareness than you are, Mr. Trump? You're President of the United States. How is it more people are more aware of what's going on than you are? You get it? So that ought to make him very happy. I hope it does. I was told he was a light warrior. I hope that's true. Don't you? Bye.